The room went silent when Moskowitz fired back at Harriet Hageman with breaking news, challenging her to release the Epstein files. This isn't just politics as usual. This is a test of whether Congress will stand with survivors or protect the powerful.
Motion to table is agreed to. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kayla's mother is watching this hearing. She cannot figure out for the life of her what Jeffrey Epstein has to do with her daughter and this bill. Kayla was murdered in Maryland. Where was the ranking member then? What efforts did he make to ensure that no other senseless murder like this happened? Using the life and death of Kayla Hamilton to score political points against the president is absolutely despicable. I'm going to read from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General, the report that was issued on March 25th of this year, entitled, "ICE cannot effectively monitor the location and status of all unaccompanied alien children after federal custody," because that's what the point of this bill is to address. Quote, "After meeting with more than 140 individuals from DHS and other federal agencies, we determined U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement cannot effectively monitor the location and status of all unaccompanied alien children once released or transferred from the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services custody. From fiscal years 2019 to 2023, ICE transferred more than 448,000 UACs to HHS. Most were released to sponsors. However, more than 31,000 of the 448,000 children release addresses were blank, undeliverable, or missing apartment numbers. ICE also was not always aware of the location for UACs who fled HHS custody. We found that ICE did not effectively oversee UACs subject to removal by not issuing notices to appear to all UACs to generate assignment of immigration court dates by the U.S. Department of Justice. As of January 2025, ICE had not served NTAs on more than 233,000 unaccompanied minors. As of October 2024, ICE reported more than 43,000 UACs served NTAs failed to appear for scheduled court dates. Finally, ICE was not always notified of UAC's status and safety unless an allegation or tip was reported. These issues occurred because ICE did not always receive information about UAC's sponsor locations from HHS and other federal agencies. ICE also had limited staffing to monitor USC's cases and did not have a policy for all officers to monitor UAC's cases. Without an ability to monitor the location and status of UACs, ICE is unable to facilitate court appearances and has no assurance UACs are safe from trafficking, exploitation, forced labor, or involvement in criminal activities that may pose a risk to local communities. Kayla Hamilton. Kayla Hamilton. Kayla Hamilton. Write it down for me. The reason for what this bill is about, Kayla Hamilton was brutally murdered by Walter Javier Martinez, a UAC who was released to a sponsor, an individual who was responsible for housing and supervising the UAC by HHS before any background checks were completed. Kayla Hamilton was brutally murdered by Walter Javier Martinez, a UAC who was released to a sponsor by HHS before any background checks were completed. It is critically important that we stay on task with the issue that is before us today, and that is addressing the brutal murder of Kayla Hamilton and ensuring that this kind of a tragedy never happens again. This is not about Jeffrey Epstein. If the folks on the other side of the aisle would like to bring a bill about Jeffrey Epstein, we can address that. Do not sully Kayla Hamilton's name or her memory by turning this into a political sideshow. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of this very well-crafted, important bill. It is critical that we be able to protect people like Kayla Hamilton. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. All said. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
I'd like to strike the last word, and I'd like to yield my remaining time to Congressman Moskowitz.
Thank you, the gentlelady from California. I have breaking news for the gentlelady from Wyoming. The idea of Jeffrey Epstein, that we could bring it, I just want to let you know that there's a gentleman that sits right behind you. His name is Thomas Massey. He has brought a discharge petition that, you may not have heard about it, he's brought a discharge petition that would release all of the Epstein files. Because I was listening to your speech and I was listening to Van Drew's speech, and it was a lot of words to say, I don't want to release the files, right? Like that was a lot of words to say, I don't want to release it.
Would you yield? Very briefly, would you yield very briefly?
When I'm done.
My words were about Kayla Hamilton.
Yeah, no, when I'm done, I'll yield. When I'm done, I'll yield to you. When I'm done. So there's a discharge petition that would release the files. The reason why we talk about it in all these hearings is that we can't believe that you were all for releasing the files until the mothership beamed down the instructions to not release the files, and then all of a sudden it was a hoax, it's not real, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, right? We're gonna send the private attorney to move Ghislaine Maxwell, right? We're gonna do all of these things. We're just very surprised, and obviously Mr. Massey has stuck to his principles, and he's had a couple of others do that as well. Everybody else ran for cover, and so do you want to release the files? And then I'll yield. I mean, it's a yes or no, and then will you sign the Massey petition?
Will you yield?
I will.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to yield back to the. I got to yield back. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to yield. I want to take some of my time because it's also very simple. Like I said before, release the files, put it out there, pop the balloon, let out all this air. I, too, would like to get to the point where we could discuss the underlying bill. There's a lot of problems with the underlying bill. But when we met with the survivors, they said, we want transparency, we want action, we want accountability. We don't know why there's a flyover happening at the exact same time we're holding a press conference. We don't know why members outside of those in the Women's Caucus and a few other brave folks don't want to meet with us and hear our story. We don't know why we're getting thrown under the bus and treated as if we are perpetrators. And I don't know why either. We come into this committee, the Judiciary Committee, which is supposed to be about justice. And then we get subjective amnesia, and it's like, well, only justice for certain people. I don't know. For people who look like or look a certain way, speak a certain way, have a certain amount of money in their bank account. I thought we have one set of laws that everyone's supposed to follow. The survivors of the Epstein crimes seem to think the same too. And yet we have multiple sets of rules. So if you release the files, we can see whose rules, who's allowed to follow. We heard from survivors who said, Jeffrey Epstein said, I own the banks, I own the government. I can do what I want. We are talking about the Epstein files related to this bill because the man had multiple passports. He was traveling to far and away places like Monaco, Austria, Slovakia, Paris, Mexico, Morocco, involved orchestrating an international ring of trafficking young women, young enough to be someone's child, someone's grandchild. So vote on the amendments to release the files, to give the survivors what they want: transparency, action, and accountability. And with that, I yield back my time.
Gentlelady.
What we just witnessed is the collision of two narratives on Capitol Hill, one rooted in grief and tragedy, and another in the demand for truth and transparency. Representative Harriet Hageman came in forcefully, centering her remarks on the heartbreaking murder of Kayla Hamilton, a young woman whose life was stolen under circumstances tied to failures in the immigration system. For Kayla's mother, who was watching in real time, the plea was simple: keep the focus on her daughter, not Jeffrey Epstein. But then Congressman Jared Moskowitz stepped in, and his intervention reveals something deeper. He wasn't dismissing Kayla's tragedy, but he was challenging the selective way accountability is being framed. His breaking news moment wasn't about disrespect, it was about pointing out an uncomfortable truth. Many lawmakers are quick to grandstand about certain crimes when they fit a political narrative, but go silent or evasive when it comes to exposing the powerful networks behind Epstein, a man who trafficked girls across borders with impunity. And that's why Moskowitz kept circling back to the files. Because the question at the heart of this exchange isn't just about Kayla Hamilton or even Epstein. It's about who gets justice in America and who doesn't. Survivors of Epstein's abuse have repeatedly asked for transparency, accountability, and the release of documents that might expose names, institutions, and systems that allowed his crimes to flourish. Instead, they've often been met with political deflection, delay tactics, and, in Moskowitz's words, subjective amnesia. Notice how he reframed the debate. If justice is really about fairness, if Congress truly believes in law and order, then why are there different sets of rules depending on who you are, how much money you have, or who you're connected to? That's a crucial civic question, because what's at stake here isn't only immigration enforcement or even one tragic murder, but whether the justice system can be trusted to pursue truth without fear or favor. So when Moskowitz says, "release the files," he's really calling for a test of integrity. Do lawmakers actually want accountability for crimes against children, or do they only want accountability when it aligns with their politics? That's why this moment matters, and why it sparked such tension. It was a direct challenge to the selective moral outrage that so often dominates these hearings. And here's the lesson for all of us watching. Tragedies like Kayla Hamilton's death and the atrocities of Epstein's network should not be reduced to partisan weapons. They are human failures that demand systemic accountability. Both issues, the failures in monitoring unaccompanied minors and the cover-ups around Epstein's global trafficking ring, point to the same problem. When systems of power prioritize politics over protection, people suffer, and the most vulnerable suffer first. This is bigger than one hearing. It's about whether Congress will face the uncomfortable truths that real justice requires. And that's something every American deserves to pay attention to. If you value honest breakdowns of these hearings and want to cut through the noise to get clarity, make sure to subscribe to Left Lens, where we keep asking the hard questions and connecting the dots others would rather leave scattered.